Heaven is empty. Nothing but blue forever. Weather in the wires, 3 weeks old. The signal breaks down. Fragments of fragments vanishing into the raw pulse of static. No self at all, so the mechanists would have it, and the ascetics as well. Finding no trace in their bones and no place to keep it. So love is merely an eloquent triune descent into the dead fact of matter. Can you feel gravel where the sky used to be? To wear death like a glory shroud, because it is all that remains of truth. Here is knowledge, bifurcated and splayed upon a tree. The feast has seized us, down in our joints, and inscribed her gray miracle for the last thing, for those that thrive on last things, for the animal mirror, afraid to look you in the face. In the pleroma of nothingness, all knowledge is revealed as fakery, as sublime ornament, as gorgeous foolishness. We are bound by the kisses we dream. If I stumble walking toward you, it's not because I'm drunk. I am blinded by neon geometries that exists nowhere, not even in my eyes. With total absence of being, with oblivion as my lover, with love for her and none other, disappear. Even death wears out its use, surrenders and dies, as all creations must. Brooding through the twilight of late autumn, brooding over the waters where chaos sleeps, brooding in these dead streets, a sullen old man, while the years slip away. Heaven is surely empty. Do you know the violence in a name? She brought me a ring and a cross on a necklace and a long wool coat. She brought me the eyes of a dozen strangers. She brought me a kiss worth dying for. Now the days come like electric shocks. Every moment is a separate particle in another orbit. The body is a shell, hollowed by wind and water, merciless heat, bitter cold, and a lifetime of desire. But the body is where life begins. The books have been swept clean of words and images. The pages come to life. God, I am with you in no man's land. For he who could not discover the foundations of the house. For she who struggled in the abyss of the Trinity. For he who fought hand to hand with a legion of belligerent angels. For she who wept where the tree exploded in flames. For he who drowned in her tears. For she who buried him, summoned his breath, and with a kiss brought him back. Heaven is empty, and emptiness is a call. Is the desire for absence the absence of desire? I have become a question to myself, St. Augustine said. I have thrown the self into question, into judgment, into that blissful moment when consciousness slips away from self into the vast expanse of sleep. 3 equal 1 equals 0. I felt as if I was falling apart. My hands were in motion, but they weren't my own. My eyes caught the light and studied the world, but I was not the one seeing. You must enter the house without entering it, as something less than a ghost. Leave no trace on the floor, no sign in the room of your passing. Silence is the beginning of prayer and its constant substance. In the painting, she is weary, her face resting on her right hand, while from her drooping left hand her ring slips and falls onto her prayer book, the skeletal memento mori peering over her shoulder with his accomplice, a cherubim with a poisoned dart. All those who seek the mysteries learn the darkness of God. Hope is born, in desolation and waste. Hope is born of despair. There is nothing else left to do. The man swinging from the gallows has lost everything except nothing. And so it begins, in a shining breath in the middle of nowhere, which cannot have a center. Who is sleeping under the arch? Who can substantiate our faith? How did everything we remember never happen? Heaven is empty. Emptiness is form. The sanctuary was so quiet, we heard the bread when she tore it. Love demands a beloved. When the bees were all that remained of the ancient living things, they clawed at her back until they tore off her wings. From out of that wound 7 rivers flowed. When she reached to fly, she wept. When she wept, the rivers flooded. And though the bees had devoured her out of honest hunger, they were sorrowful and brought her pollen from the void beyond worlding. From the pollen she made shapes and poured the life of her flight into them. She set them free in the lush green valleys the flooded rivers created. And every first day the garbage men take them away, not knowing what to do with truckloads of living creatures. From this science, a tale depends in a single shining breath in the middle of nowhere, in the sticks and brambles, a fire where lightning struck. Aristotle uses the word psyche for both soul and butterfly. Out of what hellish labyrinthine earth does the caterpillar rise to feed and weave and die? The rich ornaments of the tabernacle, incense day and night, the vestments, breastplate and glowing stones, Urim and Thummim. Into that holy of holies the plague worm crawls, insatiably hungry for release from its ravenous agony. Skin beneath skin, shell beneath shell, intellect and reason handsomely adorned in the delicate finery of a skull. The neural arch, the beckoning ascent towards some oblivious absence that renders that first shining breath essential, inevitable. Heaven is empty. Emptiness is form. Call it the heart and lose what remains of the mind. Plato crawls out of some Orphic spasm, a Neolithic dance, a seizure where the animals, salamander, coelacanth, and hawk ascend, carved in relief on the stones. Heaven is empty. Everything depends upon it. I borrowed your body and dove into the sea. The water rose like a sky until I had forgotten a time before water. I forgot that I drowned and spent 7 years, I don't know how long, beneath the floor of the sea where the roots of the world take form. I talked to people in cafes, tombs, and streets about what it meant to breathe, to shine, to remember another life before drowning. I remembered your small hands and pursed blue mouth, and I was sorry for taking your body. Sorrow disintegrated me, and whatever remained rose. I thought I was flying, but I was only floating to the surface to be discovered by a child in a rowboat who fell into a fever and wrote thousands of pages about the body she had formed and built a reliquary around. The pilgrimages have taken their toll. I sit still and wait for your return, to claim what is yours, to become human again, to eat and drink and laugh again, in a form only you could make, before birth, before the lie of knowledge, before the eyes lost sight, and the heart lost its voice, its gathered reckoning, and perpetual dawn flashed unrelentingly across every wing, every branch and face. We have constructed an absence to avoid the first death. The first death is all that can save us. We search for the substance in a name, in a voice, rising out of the river, an old forgotten god, woven into a nightmare under the low limbs. We wait for the weather to exhaust itself before we return to the hunt. I saw you there, writing in a forbidden language on your lover's skin, out on loan to anyone willing to pay the price, to anyone who truly understands the biology of sacrifice. We surrender to the final litany of the empirical age. I kiss you. I love you. I don't want anything to do with you, unless you bring money. Even then, just leave it by the door and disappear. In her dream, she said, these books smell like dead people, roses, lilac, and fermented musk. These are priceless commodities, sold for nothing more than a glimpse of paradise along the avenues and riverside shops where the fog is a language and the rain never stops. Who was she that stole my soul? Or was that an overcoat and tossed it into the air, and it has yet to come down? Let me drown again. Let me feel the fever in the wine. Let servitude be my chosen vice. Oblivion is not forgetting. Oblivion has no mind to forget. Remember to die, memento mori, even though death has lost its power. Oblivion is not the opposite of memory. It is its companion and completion. Time is no way to measure eternity, which has no measure. It was said in those days, he is lost in heart thought. Did you not see me in your dark sleep, coming like fire between the halved carcasses? Before you existed, I surrendered to your death and felt each cell explode until nothing remained but darkness and distance in your sleeping breath suddenly shining. Zero glittering fountain out of the well, the brutal divine come to Sumer via the way of the animals ascending, sweet river Psyche, whole boundless sea before dwarf galaxy, shimmering awake to know in some dim mirror that I am, and trembling at the sight, brave Arjuna reduced to tears, chrysolitic death, and wet wings flashing, every altar, every stela full of animal cells, to rediscover what the mirror knows down to dust. From them the seraphim serpents come, fire from the helix, fire on the tongue, fire in the temple and secret vaults where gold goes to waste, rust and devilment, market charlatans who'll bring the work of civilization down to dust, from which the light took shape. Where the body ends, the river fans out across the plain into a chorus, a disparate harmony of the waters rising and falling, singing a polyphonous song. Down into hell on the second day, the crows in the morning to clean the bones and send the spirit home. The geese in the evening out across the sloughs singing the spirit song. The stove needs tending, a few branches and dry grass. The saints go where they will, though they have no will of their own. It is not I. It is definitely not I, but the eye's light, a lantern to the body, gone out, gone down. Hey, Papa, please let me pass. See, I bring the sacrifice, every drop, every note, the voices rising and falling until there is nothing left. 1, 3, Psyche, Psyche. 3, 1, Numa, Numa. 0, 0, ecstasis, ecstasy. When March comes, a third season, and the house is quiet, and the dry winds roar, and the sun is of burnished gold, when she has become a lion, and an eagle, and a mountain, and walks on molten glass across a sea of shattered, useless weaponry, the cities have disappeared. The villagers run to embrace her. In that quiet house, in that third season, she lights a sky blue candle. doves settle out across the field and watch the warm light rise. In the dream, I have returned home. I am pruning a pear tree of dead branches, but the branches are full of fruit. She lights a candle, and the night starts singing. Every shadow is released in radiant joy. The oblivion of self is not the self's oblivion. 3 equal 1 equals 0. Nothing but blue. Nothing but. Nothing. No. To surrender completely, utterly. To be broken as the earth is broken, as the seed is broken and surrenders its spirit, so the sky is broken and the rain pours down. As shadows dim and fade into the maker of their form, the freeing of the dust, the fiery thorn. Prayer, faith, knowledge, death, unknowing, reality, wisdom, love, heaven. Prayer, faith, knowledge, death, unknowing, reality, wisdom, love, heaven. And heaven is abundantly empty and breathing glorious mystery in the body she made. Epilogue. How many Easters past was that, before the slaughtered lamb, before the apes climbed down from the trees that kissed the angel of the wood? We were in an oak-paneled room. You were wearing a white cotton dress. I remember the phonograph and the slow, close waltz beneath the paschal moon. I remember your eyes and the blood-stained sheets wound in the roots of a tree. The crying light out of such a splendid, shattered night. How do you explain to a child so beautifully conceived that even when death finds him, it cannot hold him? Not in the earth, not in the water, not even the boundless skies can contain such passion. The phonograph winds down. The room is stripped bare, and we are alone, naked, embracing against the cold, waiting for the moon to break the last day open.